like...
About working with the deaf community?
Oh, yeah. One thing I really didn't understand before working on this was the spectrum of deafness, that like all deaf people weren't profoundly deaf, that there really is like a broad spectrum, and you know, all the different ways you can still identify as deaf, and what that meant in terms of the way that I would be communicating with them. You know, I can communicate with Josh, who hears quite well and grew up around a lot of hearing people very differently than I can communicate with, say, Daniel, who's profoundly deaf. And that was something I didn't know anything about, and it has been really illuminating and fascinating.
And to just really quickly piggyback off of that, so, yeah, of course. So that's one of the most amazing things that I learned about working with Daniel, and I'm sure he can say what it was like from his end. It was again, like most of these people, when I started the show, I'd never met a deaf person. So I was learning learning and understanding the concept. Oh, repeat the question? The question was, what are some, like, not necessarily misconceptions, but ideas you had what it would be like working with the deaf community, that everything changed or something you learned. So, like I was saying, you know, when Daniel and I were first communicating, I finally understood the concept of English being Daniel's second language. You know, ASL is Daniel's first language, so he's in the way that so many people in this room are thinking in English. Daniel is thinking in much more, in my opinion, interesting and really amazing pictures and concepts. So he can elaborate that much more on than I can. But the idea of me coming from nothing, learning to communicate with someone with such a high complexity and understanding of ASL as a language was very valuable for me. I don't know if he wants to add.
No, I'm really happy that you can see that, and the wide spectrum of identities. Not many people understand that about the deaf community, and you're right, deaf people are so diverse. Depending on where they grew up, did they learn ASL, did they not? There's just so many ways to be deaf in this world, and I'm glad that you can see that difference. Really, ASL is my primary language, and that's where I excel, that's where I thrive. And so I know it's interesting to see others that thrive in English and they're very good at it and they can do great things with that language. It's just been an incredible experience to see that. You know, I don't see people as deaf or hearing, I see people as human, and we're just communicating through language. That's it.
Yes, I think it's important to recognize that I'm not a hearing actor. I'm an actor who happens to be hearing.
Right.
And they are not deaf actors. They are actors who happen to be deaf.
Question. Let's go over.
Hold on.
I think Sandra wanted to ask.
I'm so sorry, Sandra.
Okay. Two things. You know, it's hard for deaf people to jump in. I think you can see that. It's so rapid. It's hard to get in there. But I did get in there, and I want to let you know that when I was in Beverly Hills, no. I was mistaken. It happened here. During the rehearsal process, we were working on the signing while they were working on the lyrics and the songs, and we were working on the song Our Bodies Are the Guilty Ones and how we were signing it, and I think Andy, our ASL master, asked what we would sign for that and what that means. And we do, and he said, no, that sign, what does the sign in particular mean? Because what it means in English is different than how it is in ASL. We don't sign literally in English. We're not signing word for word, our bodies are the guilty one. It's not linear. So we had to show them what it looked like. We had to start with the body, and then the body leaving, and then a sign that means, hey, ain't my problem, I don't care. So, you know, all these different translations add up to something that's linear in English. So I think this process was interesting for everyone to see. And it was a beautiful experience. So thanks to really kind of detach yourself from the English gloss and to think about it, you know, pictorially as well. I really appreciated that process.
Okay, so we're gonna go with a question somewhere over here. Yep.
Okay. My question was there a moment in the whole experience where you were like, is it just like a life-changing role?
Life-changing roles, ladies and gents.
Yeah.
Or moments.
Is there a moment you remember
Once near the end of this rehearsal process, I had already known this was a life-changing experience for me, but I will never forget this as long as I live. We once sat in a circle, and all of us musicians were still playing our instruments, but we did the Song of Purple Summer with no singing. It was just the music, us in a circle looking at each other, and only the ASL. And I have never in my life seen something like that, where it was, I don't even know how to say it, like...
Because what happened at the a cappella section,
Right.
there's a part where all the music drops out, we're only singing for the last, few measures of the song, and so when we were doing it without singing, when that happened, we were only signing and it was dead silent, and we all, I could cry right now talking about it, we all... But it was, but here's people anyway, the deaf people were like, that was a great rehearsal. Right.
But it did something, and it illuminated the language and how hard everybody worked to make this thing happen, in my opinion, in a way that if it didn't resonate with a cast member at that point, it finally did. It really was one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen in my entire life, and I'm very happy we all shared that together.
I think for a bunch of us that were at ICA, I don't know if Katie and Sandy remember it. It was the first day that we did staging, and we were staging the opening number. Do you want to tell it?
That's what I was going to say, yeah. Just that first initial moment where Michael explained how the show was going to start, and I didn't even make it. I just wept through the entire song. I just sort of allowed myself to do that because I knew that it was going to take a couple times of just getting through it because I was so emotional about it, and just the meeting and her passing me the guitar and everything. And I think to this day that's still my favorite moment, and thankfully everyone was just patient with me as I, sort of worked through that. But that to me was like, wow, yeah, I just knew that this whole experience was going to be completely life-changing. Yeah.
I'm going to say one from the workshop. It was the first time that I knew that we could do this. And, the workshop was such a trial and error, and there was hardly anything that stayed, but Daniel actually was playing auto in the workshop. And so we made the ship that we make in Touch Me, that Miles is now lifted up on the shoulders and signs as he's carried across. That used to be Daniel doing that. And we tried, it was hours to get us to walk in time, and all the actors are tapping the beat on the shoulders of the people they're connected with, and so it's this, it's really a camaraderie moment. And I saw Daniel up there, and he is the most beautiful signer I've ever seen in my life, and so expressive. And I watched it, and I started bawling, crying, and I knew that it was life-changing for me. I knew what we were capable of, and that moment stayed with me and is why we kept on for years just going after it. Was that single moment because of that kid.
I think there's a million things just sitting here I could talk about that made this such a touching experience. There's just milestones in each production we've done of this, in each incarnation, and there was this one day in the first production we did this in, which was downtown Los Angeles in Skid Row, and it was our first day of rehearsal in essentially the warehouse that we were performing in. It was a big black room, and Michael Arden, our director, I think my favorite thing about working with him is the way he liberates you, the way he makes you feel liberated and free. And the first day of that rehearsal, he had us put all of our chairs on the outside of the room, and then he said, okay, forget everything you've learned in the rehearsal space, just do the show and see what you find. And so we did the entire show from start to beginning. From start to end. We did the beginning and then the beginning.
Ignoring the blocking and stuff and just kind of being free.
It was very fun.
And we discovered a lot in that process that we kept in the show. There was moments for me, in the hayloft scene, which I wasn't really given any direction about what to do, and it was always so awkward because I felt so voyeuristic, watching them, do what they do. But it was really so much clicked for us in that rehearsal of wow, that was a really big moment for us as a cast.
I've been told to wrap it up, guys. I'm sorry. One more question! Sorry! All the way in the back! Jumping, you, yes!
First of all, I'd like to say I'm the biggest fan of Daniel because I watch him on Switch at birth,
Woo! Daniel's the biggest fan.
I was just wondering.
Thank you.
your Switch Their Birth friends come see you in the show?
Yes, I did have some Switch Their Birth fans there. I loved when they came to support me. It's always good to see a few friendly faces. And Sean Birdie came to join, and he saw the show, and that was great. We got to catch up. Good to see him again. It's just been a very supportive group of people to work with. Yeah, thank you.
Cool. Well, thank you guys for coming to the panel.